I'm going to do the next few weeks. I'm going to do a few of these on food. I thought it would make sense. So this one tonight is Jane's request. She wanted to understand more about fats in your diet, what you'd be eating, what you shouldn't, how much, all of this kind of stuff. So it makes sense to do that. And then if we're going to do this, we may as well go into carbs in more detail next week, protein in more detail the week after, and I
Hmm.
might do another one on micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals.
Hmm.
That's probably a subject that people might know a little bit about, but not loads. But please, if you've got anything in mind that you think would make a good session that you want information on, let me know. I'll cover it.
Excellent.
Cool. So straight into this one. For anyone who did dieting a long time ago, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, or whatever it was, there was always this thing that everything had to be low fat. Um, Everything that you bought in the supermarket had to be low fat, and if you eat fat, you get fat, and it's complete and utter nonsense, which has been proved over recent years. I make a really big point of telling people to eat within a certain fat range. So you'll probably see this in another slide. The recommendation from the World Health Organization is that 20 to 35% of your total maintenance calories should be fat. Um, and that's for the reasons below. Basically, without it, you can't absorb fat soluble vitamins, so vitamin A, D, E, and K. Hormones are produced from fats, well, cholesterol actually. Fats support brain function and cell health, protect your organs, regulate body temperature, um, and they provide a longer lasting energy source. So if you're not aware, carbs and protein have 4 calories per gram, and fats have 9. If you're interested, alcohol has 7. So per gram, it obviously, yeah, not there. Um, Per gram, fat is much more dense and takes over twice as long to break down and metabolize than protein and carb. So as I said before, 20 to 35% of your total daily calories, of your total maintenance calories. So where this might need to be adjusted is if you're in a calorie deficit, then that percentage might need to go up to be similar to what it would be on a maintenance diet. Similarly, if you were pushing yourself up into a surplus, you might have to lower it slightly because your overall calorie intake is going to be higher. That makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when all of you have a plan from us from when we started, and I worked out your calorie recommendations, and when I worked out what your macro recommendations are, it's based around this 20 to 35%. So it wasn't an arbitrary figure. It was something that I've picked, which was within those guidelines. And that just gives you an example there. A 70-kilo person on 2,200 calories a day would be around 50 to 85 grams of fat. When I've done people's check-ins, I'm commonly seeing people averaging 30 odd to 40 grams of fat a day. Um, that's not to say that one single day can't be that low, but if you're averaging that over the week, that is too low. It's far too low. And if you continue doing that week after week after week, um, you are going to feel the repercussions of it. Like your general health is going to suffer, your mood's going to suffer, and all these other things about your hormones and vitamin absorption is going to suffer as well. Low energy, dry skin, too much. And when we're talking about too much, I think when it comes onto it later on, it's talking about omega-6 fats can cause inflammation. Obviously, if you're going over that 35% mark, that is going to cause weight gain because the amount of fat that you're eating is over and above. Um, obviously we said that it takes your body longer to break down fat. So if you've got more of it, there's much more chance of it being stored and not being used. So fats found in red meat, full fat dairy, butter, coconut oil, all the usual stuff. This was what people used to think caused heart disease, but there's obviously a lot more details about than just saying that outright causes it. In moderation, it's fine. The target is to keep it around 10% or less of total daily calories, which is still quite a lot. Like that's 200 calories that could still be made up of saturated fat. So whenever you see something on a packet that says saturated fat, unless you're eating it in high amounts every single meal, you don't need to worry about it. Okay? Like if you're having cheese for every meal, like that's maybe not a good thing. Unsaturated fats, these are what protect your heart, lower bad cholesterol, and support overall health. So you've got mono unsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. Your mono unsaturated fats are what you get in olive oil, avocados, nuts. These help improve your blood cholesterol levels. And then you've got polyunsaturated fats, which is walnuts, seeds, oily fish like salmon, mackerel, things like that. These are particularly important because your body cannot make these particular fatty acids on their own. Most macronutrients, sorry, if you're not eating them, your body can make them. Your body can make its own protein, and it can make its own amino acids, and it can make its own glucose by breaking down and rebuilding other resources, like other things that you're eating. Hi, Mark.
I'm right.
I'm good, thanks. But there are certain things that your body can't make itself. So these particular fatty acids it can't make. When we get into the start talking about protein, there are 8 essential amino acids that your body can't make itself, which are only found in animal sources. We'll come on to that another week. Omega-3s and omega-6s. These are both the 2 types of polyunsaturated fats. Omega-3s, probably the most important. These are things that you get in salmon, seeds, walnuts. These reduce inflammation, support brain health, and protect your heart. Omega-6s, found in vegetable oils, nuts, and seeds. They are still essential, but modern day diets typically tend to be higher in these anyway. And if the amount of omega-6s in your diet is way above the ratio for omega-3s, that's not particularly good for you. Now, how you work this out, is anyone's guess. It's already hard enough to make sure you're within your calorie limits and counting your calories and making sure that you're within where you need to be. It's another thing to then balance how much protein, how much carbs you have. Get into the detail of trying to calculate on a daily basis how many omega-3s and how many omega-6s and how many saturated and how many polyunsaturated is like that's not something anyone does, unless you've got real like medical issues that you need to overcome. But otherwise, as long as you're sticking to particular guidelines and you're eating a range of all of these different things across the week, then you're totally fine. And as long as you stick within that 20 to 35% of your total maintenance calories. Any questions so far?
No.
Most people don't eat 2 to 3 servings of oily fish a week. We don't. We have started having salmon once a week, but we do supplement with fish oil capsules.
I found, Phil, that salmon's ridiculously high in calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you have a little bit of salmon, it's quite a lot of calories for what you have.
Aye.
So I tend not to have
Because of
salmon.
the fat in it. I know, but then you've got to pull from something else.
Yeah. Sorry, Phil.
We've got-
We've got someone else on the call tonight.
Hooray!
Mhm.
Obviously,
Yeah, she's just getting off her, so I was scared to put her down. So I'm just going to keep her.
It's quiet. Right, Jane, this is the one you asked about, trans fats.
Yeah.
Trans fats are basically found in every processed food that you buy. So the bakery aisle at Lidl, all of that stuff, pizzas, burgers, anything from a takeaway, crisps, all the nice stuff, all the stuff that we all eat, that's the bad stuff. Trans fats are basically they're oils that have had hydrogen added to them, are treated in such a way that they can become solid at certain temperatures, so they can be mass produced for use in the food industry. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of that, because of the way that it's been altered, it makes it very difficult for your body to break it down. So when you have too much of these, it really does cause a massive amount of stress in your body. LDL and HDL. So if anyone here has had blood work done and they've seen these marks pop up on the results, LDL and HDL. So LDL is low density lipoproteins and HDL is high density lipoproteins. They're basically responsible for carrying cholesterol in and out of the body. So cholesterol in diet is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, you actually need it because hormones formed from cholesterol. Where cholesterol becomes a problem is when you've got a wrong balance of LDL and HDL, because then they're not performing the function of moving the cholesterol to where it needs to be or removing it from the body. So a good way to remember LDL, if you think of the L as being low because it's low density lipoproteins, LDL you want to be low, and HDL you want to be high. So if it's high density lipoprotein, you want your values to be high. I'll come on to that in the next slide. Actually, did not come back onto that one. Yes, it does. Sorry. So as I said, your body uses cholesterol to build cell membranes. It makes vitamin D. It produces hormones, so testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, and creates bile acids to digest fats. LDL and HDL. So your LDL basically carries cholesterol through your arteries, and HDL takes it away from your arteries back to the liver. So if you've got something which is taking cholesterol into your arteries and that becomes elevated, it's taking more and more of it to your arteries. So if your LDL is high, you're taking more and more cholesterol into your arteries. If your HDL is low, then the carrier which is removing it from your arteries is not enough. So it's then that's when your arteries become clogged. So chronic overconsumption, processed foods, trans fats, and low activity is what results in high LDL levels and low HDL levels. Smoke and stress and poor sleep are also things that make this worse. Ways to improve that cholesterol ratio is eat more unsaturated fats, eat less processed and trans fats, exercise regularly, get enough fiber, and avoid smoking and manage stress. This is really the big one, and which is why I kind of hammer everyone on their check-ins about their average 30-40 grams of fat in their diet. It really does play havoc with your hormones. Like, you will struggle, and you'll notice your mood drop as well. Particularly testosterone and estrogen. So you will also notice things like your sex drive will go down massively if there's not enough fat in your diet. Any other questions around that?
No.
Fat is also good for keeping you full because of the fact that it digests more slowly. It does help you keep fuller for longer. It does also have an impact on, people talk about the glycemic index and they talk about carbs rated on the glycemic index if it's really high or if it's really low. If it's really high, it has a much quicker effect on spiking insulin as a low glycemic index. When you add fat in a meal to high glycemic carbs, it lowers the glycemic index anyway because of that slower digestion. So, if someone says, "Oh, you shouldn't be having pasta, you shouldn't be having white potatoes or whatever it is, because it's going to spike your insulin." No, it's not necessarily. Not if you've also got fats within the same meal, because that your glycemic index becomes irrelevant. It's only if you're eating that particular food on its own. So basically, don't worry about fat. If you're someone who generally looks for the low-fat versions, if you think if people are removing fat from a particular product, then it's getting filled with something else, and it's usually sugars. So whenever you take fat out of something, you're putting sugar in. So that's your low-fat Greek yogurt, low-fat cheese, all of these things. Any low-fat variants of things. Yes, it's less calories. So yes, you can use them if it means that you can stay within your calorie limit, but you are not better off by having a low-fat version of something. You're actually better off having the high-fat version if you can stay within your calorie limit. Just a quick overview: your saturated fats, meat, butter, cheese, coconut oil, monounsaturated fat from olive oil, nuts, and avocado, and polyunsaturated fats are the ones that you really want to try and ramp up as much as possible. And then your trans fats, the goal is to avoid completely, but no one's going to do that either. As long as you have a mixture of these and you stay within your 20 to 35% recommendation, then you're good to go. I'll send this deck round, or I'll add it to the Facebook group as well, and I'll put it in the resource center on the app. So if you ever want to refer back to it, you can.